The story of the moon landing is one of humanity's most remarkable achievements, a journey filled with ambition, innovation, and extraordinary courage. From the earliest steps in space exploration to the defining moments of Apollo 11, each milestone brought us closer to touching another world. In this video, we'll take you through this historic event, highlighting key moments and asking you some fun trivia questions along the way. The moon landing didn't happen in isolation. It was part of the intense space race between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It all began with the launch of the very first satellite into space, a tiny beeping capsule that captured the world's imagination and signaled the dawn of a new era. But now, let's see how much you know with Trivia Question 1.
What was the name of the first artificial satellite launched into space? A. Explorer 1, B. Sputnik 1, C. Luna 1, or D. Vanguard 1? The first artificial satellite launched into space was Sputnik 1.
Okay, now, back to the story. Following the launch of Sputnik, the Soviet Union continued to achieve a series of impressive firsts in space, including launching the first animal into orbit, with Laika the dog in Sputnik 2, achieving the first lunar flyby with Luna 1, and sending the first human into space, with Yuri Gagarin in Vostok 1. These achievements put immense pressure on the United States, fueling the Cold War space race. In response to this perceived technological and ideological threat, President John F. Kennedy delivered a historic address to Congress, setting the audacious goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth before the end of the decade. And now, it's your turn with Trivia Question 2.
In which year did President Kennedy announce the goal of landing on the moon? A. 1959, B. 1961, C. 1963, or D. 1965? President Kennedy announced this bold goal in 1961.
Okay, now back to the story. To achieve Kennedy's ambitious goal, NASA launched the Apollo program, a massive undertaking that involved designing and building new spacecraft, developing complex launch systems, and rigorously training astronauts. The program consisted of a series of crucial missions: uncrewed tests to validate the technology, crewed orbital flights around Earth to test spacecraft systems and procedures, and crucial dress rehearsals in lunar orbit to practice the landing sequence. Each mission built upon the previous one, progressively pushing the boundaries of human spaceflight and laying the groundwork for the ultimate lunar landing. And now, let's see what you remember with Trivia Question 3.
Which Apollo mission was the first to successfully land astronauts on the moon? A. Apollo 9, B. Apollo 10, C. Apollo 11, or D. Apollo 12? The mission that successfully landed astronauts on the moon in 1969 was Apollo 11.
And back to the story we go. The launch of Apollo 11 was a spectacle unlike any other. On July 16, 1969, at 9:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the 5 F-1 engines of the rocket first stage ignited, generating an astounding 7.6 million pounds of thrust. The ground trembled as the massive rocket, standing 363 feet tall, began its slow ascent. The roar of the engines was deafening, a physical force felt for miles around. The launch was broadcast live around the world, captivating a global audience as the Apollo 11 spacecraft pierced through the Earth's atmosphere, beginning its journey to the moon. And now, let's see how closely you've been following. Try to answer trivia question 4.
What was the name of the rocket that carried Apollo 11 to the moon? A. Atlas V, B. Falcon Heavy, C. Saturn V, or D. Delta IV? The rocket that carried Apollo 11 to the moon was the Saturn V rocket.
Approximately 76 hours after launching from Earth, the lunar module began its tense descent to the lunar surface. Fraught with alarms and near-critical fuel levels, the lunar module finally touched down in the Sea of Tranquility at 4:17 p.m. EDT on July 20th, 1969. A message crackled back to Earth. "Houston, Tranquility Base here." This was the signal that the lunar module had landed. Humanity had arrived on the moon. As you can see, the landing quote is missing an essential part. I left it out intentionally because I want to use it in question 5.
What was the name of the lunar module used during the Apollo 11 mission? A. Eagle, B. Falcon, C. Orion, or D. Discovery? The lunar module was named Eagle, as famously mentioned in Armstrong's message.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
It took the astronauts approximately 6 hours to prepare for the moonwalk, but finally at 10:56 p.m. EDT, Neil Armstrong descended the ladder of the lunar module. As his boot touched the lunar dust, he uttered the now immortal words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Humanity had left its first footprint on another world. Shortly after, a second astronaut joined him on the lunar surface, marking another historic moment. And now it's your turn to participate by answering to question 6.
Who was the second astronaut to walk on the moon? A. John Glenn, B. Pete Conrad, C. Alan Shepard, or D. Buzz Aldrin? Buzz Aldrin followed Neil Armstrong as the second person to walk on the moon.
The Apollo 11 mission had 3 important jobs that had to be done just right. 2 astronauts went down to the moon in the lunar module, while the third stayed in orbit around the moon in the command module. This astronaut had a very different experience, circling the moon all alone and losing contact with Earth whenever he passed behind it. His job was to take care of the command module's systems, keep an eye on the progress of the lunar module, and perform the key maneuver to bring the other astronauts back safely. Even though people didn't see much of this role, it was crucial to making the mission a success. Question 7 refers to him.
Which Apollo 11 astronaut piloted the command module during the moon landing? A. Buzz Aldrin, B. Michael Collins, C. John Glenn, or D. Jim Lovell? The astronaut who piloted the command module during the Apollo 11 moon landing was Michael Collins.
During their time on the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin planted an American flag and left behind a plaque commemorating humanity's first landing. They also deployed scientific experiments to gather data about the lunar environment. Finally, they spent over 2 hours carefully collecting lunar samples, gathering rocks and soil, documenting their findings, and packaging them for return to Earth. And now, let's see how much you know about their findings with trivia question 8.
Approximately how much lunar material did the Apollo 11 astronauts bring back to Earth? A. 22 kilograms, B. 47 kilograms, C, 68 kilograms, or D, 91 kilograms? The astronauts brought back 22 kilograms of lunar material to Earth.
After spending about 21 hours exploring the lunar surface, the lunar module's ascent stage lifted off, beginning the crucial rendezvous with the command module orbiting high above. This delicate maneuver required precise timing and navigation. Once docked, the astronauts transferred back to the command module, leaving the lunar module behind. The combined spacecraft then began its multi-day journey back to Earth, culminating in a safe splashdown in one of Earth's oceans on July 24, 1969. And now, let's see how closely you've been following. Try to answer Trivia Question 9.
Where did the Apollo 11 astronauts land upon returning to Earth? A, Atlantic Ocean, B, Pacific Ocean, C, Gulf of Mexico, or D, Indian Ocean? The astronauts safely splashed down in the Pacific Ocean.
While Apollo 11 marked humanity's first steps on the Moon, it was not the end of the story. Several more Apollo missions followed, each expanding our understanding of the lunar surface and conducting further scientific research. These subsequent missions solidified humanity's presence on the Moon and paved the way for future exploration. And here is one final question.
How many Apollo missions successfully landed astronauts on the Moon? A, 1, B, 3, C, 6, or D, 10? Six Apollo missions successfully landed astronauts on the Moon. These were Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
The Apollo program and the moon landing marked a turning point, diverting the intense focus of the Cold War into a more productive endeavor. It ignited the imaginations of children, inspiring them to pursue careers in science and engineering, and spurred scientists to make groundbreaking discoveries. It forever broadened our understanding of the universe. This monumental achievement was so extraordinary that for some, it sparked disbelief, giving rise to conspiracy theories that persisted for decades. In a way, it had something for everyone: triumph, wonder, and even doubt. However, as the Cold War tensions eased and the initial novelty waned, funding for lunar exploration diminished. It took nearly 60 years for humanity to reignite its ambition to return to the Moon. Now, the Artemis program aims to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon and prepare for future missions to Mars, ushering in a new era of lunar and deep space exploration.